College of Nurses and Midwives, the president and the management. And I must say that I am pleased. I am honored to be part of the celebration, the 10th anniversary celebration. And more importantly, to share with you a small message in an area of interest as well. When I was doing my MPhil, I wrote a paper on the image, the professional image of nursing. So it's an interest area for me. I hope that the little that I'll give, because already Dr. Mrs. Abraham has given us a lot. I believe that these messages will stir us up. There's so much work we have to do as nurses, should we want to change the perceptions of the public, of us, or the image of nursing. So the perception of nurses and midwives has been revolving. I believe that we have heard that it didn't start yesterday. I'll give a little history. People say that the perception means the way in which something is regarded, understood, or interpreted. So we are saying that people have a certain perception of us. They view us in a certain way, they regard us in a certain way, and we would want to go back to it. It is only right that from time to time we go back and see for ourselves how people think about us so that we can improve. So it is right. I'm saying that your topic, changing the public perception of nurses, the role of the 21st century nurse, is apt. So a group of people did a study, and they looked at lots of nurses in the 60s and found two popular competing perceptions of the nurse. Two popular perceptions of the nurse. One was the humanitarian and altruistic person, competent and endowed with sympathy, compassion, and exceptional capacities for establishing rapport. That was the first kind of nurse or group of nurses that they established. The second one they established, Simmons and Henderson. This group of nurses, they were well-trained, technically efficient, cool-headed individuals who perform ably in their specialty, but relatively independent of feeling components. So these were a group of nurses who were highly skilled, very technical, but would not attach any affect to the work that they do. And so for them, these are the two groups of nurses. However, they came out to say that they realized that many nurses would fit in at various points between the two poles. So you have that altruistic on the other end and the technical person at the other side. We are likely to be found along that continuum. So according to scientists, perceptions of any work group are influenced by three factors. The values and orientations learned from family and friends. What people say. Mrs. Abraham told us that people come to the hospital, they come into contact with us, they have certain feelings, they have certain experiences, they go out there and they spread that kind of gospel. So that is one. Two is the individual experiences, they themselves, the experiences that they encounter, the experience that they have when they encounter us at our workplaces. So it is not only when they are told, but when they also have to come into contact with us, they have a certain perception. They form their perceptions of us. So they form perceptions of us. The third, which is very powerful, is the mass media. Mass media. They pick information from everywhere, and today you and I will agree that we have vibrant media. You may not know that somebody is picking up on you, but the person is just picking information from you and sending it out there and reporting. So these are the three ways through which the public form their own perception of us. It means also that we will have to be aware. We will have to be aware, because if you're not aware, you wouldn't know when you'll be picked up. You wouldn't know what is going on around you. These are the three ways that scientists have come up with. So nurses and nursing have been portrayed in art and literature throughout the many years that you can think of. And in the earliest descriptions, there are found enduring tensions, fundamental tensions, and these tensions have existed till today. So we may be talking about somebody who experienced, an arrogant nurse or disrespectful nurse yesterday. I'm saying that is not when it started. The perceptions have been there for centuries. For centuries. And so I just want to give you an idea of how the perception or the image of nursing has evolved over the years. It has evolved. It started from somewhere. It started from somewhere. And the first is called the antiquity image of nursing. The antiquity image of nursing started from the 1900 BC, before Christ. So you can imagine, it is not today that people started forming perceptions of nurses. And here we are talking about the time when the two midwives saved the male babies. You remember that in the Bible? And during that time, the perception of nurses was that they were untrained servants. They were untrained servants, they were untrained soldiers, they were untrained women of religious orders. And they were doing this to please God. At the time, they were working just to please God because they were playing their roles as Christians. Then we have that other stage where we have the nurse as an angel of mercy. Nurse as angel of mercy. And that was between 1854 and 1919. And this is when the era when Florence Nightingale was just coming into the picture. And at the time, it was very nasty. It was nasty because then people were working as nurses because they wanted to exploit the sick. They wanted to exploit, they wanted to make money from the sick. And it was just then that Florence Nightingale started coming in. So when she came in, she did a lot. You and I know what she did. And she introduced formal education into nursing. True or false? Yes. So then nurses were seen as holy when the training started. They were seen as virginal. They were seen as self-sacrificing. And so many of the nurses at the time were honored. Then another stage came. So it was a kind of up and down. There were times when nurses were seen, perceived not to be so bad, were good. There were times when it was so bad. Nurse as Girl Friday. Nurse as Girl Friday. And at that time, you can imagine when you hear Girl Friday, it tells you what it's all about. It was all joy and fun, isn't it? Joy and fun. They didn't have any good thing to offer. Some of the people were recruited from prisons. Some were prostitutes who had been recruited. So you can imagine what was happening then. So at that time again, they were subservient to the physician, for instance, because they had nothing to really offer. And at that time, the physicians were de-professionalizing nursing. They started raising nursing schools, training nurses, and the kind of people they were training, and they didn't want them to appear professional. And so they were servants. That is why, these things have run over the years, and they're still there. So you see us in the field, and we are still behaving like we are servants to the physician. Then we have the era of nurse as heroine, where great nurses came up between 1930 and 1945. And the nurses were seen as brave, they were rational, they were dedicated, and all of that. People were rewarded, heroines were raised, a lot of articles were written about them and all of that. We had another stage, mother image, where it was expected after the war that all women in their homes provided care for the sick. That is why anybody can tell you that, oh, baby, I be a nurse. Because they are sitting home, and when anybody is sick, they are the carers. So everybody thinks that, oh, nurse, do you know that? Oh, everybody can do it. I'm taking care of my daddy who is not feeling well at home. So why can't I be a nurse? And why should I respect that nurse? Because then at the time they thought that we didn't really need education. We didn't really need education. Then we had the last, which has breaking the back of nursing. Nurse as sex object. Nurse as sex object. And that was in the mid-60s, where these nurses were sensual, they were romantic, they were perceived as such because they would go anywhere and they would do anything. And as I said, some of the people that were recruited really were not the material that you would want to have in nursing. So the scientists thought that there should be an ideal image for the nurse, which they called the careerist. And they thought that if anybody should be a nurse, that person must be intelligent. Intelligent, logical, progressive, sophisticated. Technology, isn't it? Sophisticated, empathic, assertive, and committed to attaining high standards of healthcare. So this is what the scientists at the time proposed that the nurse should be. However, when they did their studies, they realized no, a lot of things have gone wrong. Mrs. Abraham told us that not all perceptions are bad. So when they did the studies, they realized, they went around and for so many years looking for the perceptions of nurses. And so they had good perceptions from some people and also bad perceptions from people. So perceptions can be good and they can be bad. They can also be described as external or internal. There are external perceptions. And when we talk about external perceptions, we are talking about the perceptions of people other than nurses. People other than nurses. So it includes other healthcare professionals as well. So when they went through the study, what they realized was that internationally there were some good positive perceptions, and these included that there were educated, nurses were autonomous and compassionate. Nurses had a vital role in the care of people. They thought that nurses were intelligent and actually knowledgeable. Some thought, yes, nurses were devoted, they were dedicated, they were professional in the ways of doing things. They were responsible and hardworking. But what they realized was that these kinds of good perceptions often came from people in the higher income brackets. People from the higher income brackets who understood or had good understanding of what health was about. Then the negative perceptions, most of them came from the youth. You know, the youth, they have very high expectations and I'm training you understand. So the negative perceptions were that nurses were tough and demanding. They overworked and underpaid. That is why they don't want to come to do nursing. They work so hard, so much. They always at the hospital, and yet they are not paid well. And so the youth really had a negative perception of nursing. They thought that nurses had low educational level. They didn't need higher education. So that is why if anybody is coming to nursing school, anybody wants their relative to come to nursing school, they'll tell you, oh, when you're grades, nurse. Do you know that? That is what is happening. Our relatives will come to us. Yes, because they have that perception that nursing is not for intelligent people. Nursing is not for intelligent people. They thought that nurses were promiscuous, and we have been told. And these usually were portrayed in the media, and we all know in the films and all of that. In Ghana, I did a little search asking, and these are some of the positive perceptions of nurses, of you and I. Oh, nurses are smart. They are smart and sharp looking. Nurses are knowledgeable. They are good homemakers. So, you see, the men, they want wives and they are like, yes, so in Ghana, people think that nurses are good homemakers. They think that nurses are respectable. They think that they are an invaluable community resource person and opinion leader. They think that our job, in fact, our job is so physically and mentally challenging. So there are people who have these perceptions, but the negatives are many. There are many than the positives. They say we are uncaring, we are callous, we are heartless, we are wicked, we are rude, we are disrespectful and arrogant. These are some of the terms that came out, that we are negligent, irresponsible, dishonest, we discriminate among patients. They say all of these things about us. They say that we don't play any unique role. Nurses no krade no omoye. Omonya adwuma bia, adwuma ye ofie ya. It is the doctors. That is why they will come and say thank you to the doctors and not to the nurses. They think that we have low educational background, and indeed nursing does not require any high education. It is the reason why if you are working in Korle Bu, now it's better. I remember some time back when you wanted to further your education, they would put impediments in your way. They would do everything to prevent you. In fact, there was one time when a CEO in Korle Bu said, you didn't need higher education in nursing. What's the new thing that you're going to learn? There is nothing new to learn in nursing. So as we have been told, it's all about the bed pan. So why your degree now, also bed pan, where we stop there. If you have done diploma and you're lifting the bed pan and smiling, that is enough. So these are external perceptions of us. I am tabling these so that you see how people think of us. So when you step out there, in fact, it got to a point when nurses themselves knew that people had very bad perceptions of them, and nurses stopped wearing uniforms from home to work. So when she's going to work, she's in mufti. When I was a young nurse, I would stand by the roadside Obi be family free, ya see me. Even if the person is not going to Korle Bu, the person will give me a lift, drop me at Korle Bu so that I can go to work. Motor riders will stop and I'll say, Pacho, wait a minute, so to know. It is all gone. It is all gone. So now we ourselves have realized it, and instead of making changes in our attitudes, we have rather decided that we'll disguise ourselves. So when we are going, we will wear mufti. When we get to the ward, we wear the uniform. Internal perceptions. So when we talk about internal perception or the self-image, we are talking about how we ourselves as nurses perceive ourselves. How do we see ourselves? It is important. How we perceive ourselves actually influence how the public perceives us. So when you step out there and you appear shabbily dressed, and you appear as though you don't even know your job, you appear as if you're not confident, that public person, that person, the outsider sees you same. In fact, even worse. I know to say nurse. Nurses have been criticized for having low self-esteem. True or false? I know somebody who is doing a study and she says she's working with midwives. And when she approaches the midwives to interview them, they coil, as if they have something to hide. They don't want to talk. The confidence to come out and talk is not there. Approach the nurse. Ask a few questions and the person is withdrawing. That is the kind of attitude that we have. Our appearance is very important. Our approach to our clients is very important. We were told, smile. You don't pay for smiling. I've always said that at the OPDs, it is because we don't tell the patients anything, we don't smile at them, we don't play with them. That is why when you call the critically ill patient in there to take care of, they get angry and they start talking. Instead of humbly telling them that we have a critical case, can you wait a while, smile at them, we'll take good care of you soon. No, we won't do that, do we? So before they realize you are bringing somebody into the consulting room, no, because they have been there since 4 a.m. and they will not allow that to happen. The way we approach them. What kind of relationship do we build with patients? We saw one picture. The patient who was going home thought that he was losing a friend. He was losing a friend. Many years ago, nurses were confidants of patients. Believe you me, they'll tell you the secrets. Because they know that when they tell you, you have something good to tell them. You will support them. Now they won't tell you because they know that when you leave the facility, you'll go and sit in trotro taxi and talk about them. So they have stopped talking to us. All these are our own attitudes that influence the perceptions that the public has of us. And factors that contribute to the development of self-perception or self-image include the values and attitudes that we bring to the profession. We have been socialized in a certain community, in a certain home, in a certain family. We bring those values into the profession. And these also influence the life experiences before entering the education system. You come into the education system and you are stiff. Those days they'll tell you that, oh, nursing molds you. Nursing is supposed to mold. You're supposed to be malleable. So when you come, the training, the education will mold you. Now, even after training, we are same, if not worse. Because you see, we don't relax. We don't relax. Now we don't want to be mentored. I remember when I was teaching in Korle Bu, and at the time, I was given somebody who had just come to start teaching, and I was supposed to mentor the person. Whenever I called her, she was not ready to join. And then I heard that she had said that, oh, yeah, you're tutors, so I didn't know the mommy. Can you imagine? So, you can imagine the subsequent stories. The person stands in front of you to teach and brushes over the topic and is gone. Yes, because that person is not ready to learn. Are we ready to learn? We need to learn. It is the only way we can form good self-perceptions or good self-image of ourselves. The educational system also influences our concepts as learners. And Dr. Abraham has already spoken about what the educational system training does to us as we're being trained. It helps us, it influences our concept of practice, it influences the role of the nurse, it influences relationships with other healthcare professionals. All these we get from the training that we go through. Mr. Chairman, how do we change? This is what we are talking about, changing the perception. We have talked a lot about what perceptions are. We have talked about the perceptions that people have of us. And we all know that most of these perceptions are not pleasant. They are not pleasant. So, what do we want to do as professionals? And the basic requirement of a professional is to develop a positive self-concept. You should have, as an individual, you should have a very positive self-concept. Have a positive image of yourself. Feel good about yourself. Feel good that you are a nurse. There are people who don't want people to know that they are nurses. That nurse that was shown out there was proud, a proud nurse. Because if you are not a proud nurse, you cannot provide the care that you should give. And you cannot stick your neck out, I am a nurse. We need to form that kind of perception of ourselves. It is the only way that we can develop ourselves. So you see, somebody who doesn't really have a good perception, self-image of himself or herself, leaves the profession or gives that kind of care that we were shown, because there's no exit. Those who realize that they can exit, I know exit. Some exit as early as, after the education, like when you leave level 400, you've graduated, fine. You leave. There are some who won't even write the licensure. I know people like that. They exited. Such people cannot say that they are proud nurses. Be a proud nurse. You need to be a proud nurse. It will take only nurses to create a positive perception of ourselves. Nobody can do it for us. Nobody. So you cannot sit and fold your arms and expect doctors to go out there and say, oh, nurses are good, nurses are sharp, nurses are intelligent, nurses are skillful. A doctor will not do that job for you and I. It is not for them to do for us. In fact, when they do it for us, they'll skew it. Yes, they'll skew it to their own benefit. So it is for us to do it. We should be able to portray to people that we are articulating the things that we do. We have the skills. Whatever we are doing, we can do it and do well. And with joy. And also prove to people that our contribution to the healthcare system is invaluable. Believe you me, because of our numbers, without us, the healthcare system will just crumble. Do you know that? So why can't we raise our heads and say that, We are proud nurses. In fact, we sustain the healthcare system. In a recent meeting at the Ministry of Health, we were talking, everything they said was about the doctors, training of doctors, training of this. Then I said, why do you keep talking about training of doctors and not training of nurses? I tell you, if we do not train the nurses and bring them up, the healthcare system will not improve. They are there 24 hours a day. They are the ones who feel the patients. They are there who are there with the patients all the time. If you don't train them, and you want to continue to bring NAP, whatever, I can't even mention those titles. You fill the facilities with these people, and we call them nurses. I'm telling you, we call them nurses. So everybody comes, and those are the nurses. My goodness. And they can only give what they have. And so everybody sees them as, oh, those are the nurses. We have a hectic task ahead of us. I don't want to talk about education because they've talked about education. But as individuals, these are the things that I want us to think of. 1, valuing nursing. Valuing nursing. We have to value nursing. Place value on your profession. Place value on your profession. When you are in the field and nurses are having meetings, let professional nurses have their own meetings. We should stop having meetings with non-professionals. We should stop that. We sit with them and have meetings with them as though we are equals. No. Professional nurses must have their own meetings. If you have anything to discuss with them, have a meeting with them later. Have your own meetings as professional nurses. Don't bring them in and have meetings with them as if you're equals, you're co-equals having meetings. It is not right. It is not right. Nurses must identify themselves as nurses. Wherever you find yourselves, don't hide. Identify yourself as a nurse. Don't ever conceal your identity. Wherever you find yourself, portray that you're a nurse. Portray that. I say it proudly that I'm a nurse. And I have never regretted being a nurse. Never. Never. So let us do that. Then 2, valuing the name of nursing. Valuing the name of nursing. Valuing the name of nursing. We must do everything to protect the name nurse. When we sit in class and people are lambasting nurses, we shut up. We don't even want them to know that we are nurses. Goodness. And sometimes you know that what they are saying is so untrue. And we keep quiet. Don't we do that? We keep quiet. And people will lambast. Look, sometimes the things that they say about the nurse, you know, because you're a nurse, you know that this is not true. And yet you keep quiet. Why would you want to keep quiet? Correct them. Protect the name of nurse, the title nurse. Protect it all the time. Don't let people drag the name into the mud. Once you're there, make sure it doesn't happen. Wherever you can correct it, make sure you do. Correct all inaccurate labeling of nurses. Then the 3rd is reclaiming the name. Reclaiming the name. Reclaiming the name. And Mrs. Abraham talked about this. We must not allow other people to use the title. Everybody in the hospital is a nurse. Jeez. And the only way we can do that is what Mrs. Abraham said. We should have an identity, a unique identity, an identity that cannot be replicated by anybody. So that if you see a professional nurse going, the person is unique. You can tell that this is a professional nurse going. But you see, everybody is wearing anything, isn't it? Now we go and we are wearing scrubs, and the uglies are wearing scrubs. So when people come, they don't know who is who. Yes, they don't know who is who. Because you see, we are mixed up. We are wearing anything and everything with everybody. No, it is wrong. It is wrong. We shouldn't allow people to use the title. I'm telling you, the title nurse. Because you see, when we allow them, then they drag it into the mud. Because they do all kinds of things that you may not want to do. We must also insist on being addressed as a professional. I remember those days. This thing has stopped, you know. I remember when they used to call us Nurse Aqua. Is it happening? Mobwa. Now you go to the world and they are calling themselves by the first name. It never used to be the case. It never. SNO. SNO Yurenchi. And they used to feel good. We have stopped. Now, call Hannah for me. Call Lydia for me. That is all that we do. So you see, we are losing our own identity. We are losing our identity. Insist when somebody, I remember those days, when you called somebody by name, the person would correct you and tell you, call me Nesakwa. Oh yes. It used to be the case. I'm sure you're shocked. You're shocked. It used to be the case. When matron this, the same name, you mention it. You have no right whatsoever to change it. And you will have to do that. And you go to student nurse Aqua. It's all missing. We have to do that. We have to insist on being addressed as professionals. Again, we want to introduce ourselves formally with the surname, as I said. So when you're in the hospital and somebody comes to the hospital and you need to introduce yourself to the person, don't say, I'm Richard. Is that not what we do now? You tell them, oh, I'm Abigail. Oh, I am Ivy. No. I am Nurse Aqua. We want to do that. You see, this is the only name we will reclaim because we have lost it. It's the only way we can reclaim the title nurse. It's very important. The fourth is reclaiming practice, reclaiming the practice. Reclaiming the practice. Mr. Abraham said a lot about reclaiming practice. All the things that he talked about, how we should care for patients, quality nursing care is all about reclaiming the practice. We want to reclaim the practice, and so we want to place value on caring. That is our responsibility. In fact, this is our primary responsibility, caring. That therapeutic touch. That is what we are talking about. That we should place value on these. Health promotion, very important. That as professional nurses, we place value on health promotion. We want to also place value on teaching, health teaching, teaching our patients. We've lost all of these. Am I lying? Our patients don't even know what is wrong with them. They come, they are given medications. We also don't tell them. We tell them how to go and take the medication. Compliance. We are interested in compliance. We don't talk to them. That is why I would want to place value on that matron who asks students, go and sit by your patients. Go and sit by your patients. By the time you leave the patient's side, if the patient is low, feels so low and feels hopeless, the person would have gained some hope in what is left. So we want to reclaim practice by doing that. We don't want to delegate our jobs. Please, professionals. It is critical. Now we delegate everything to non-professionals. Abi? We are delegating everything. You see, they are taking over our job. Oh. Do you know they are taking over our job? That is why they will go and train NAC and NAPO. Oh, NAB. What is it? It breaks my heart. I refused to teach any of those. I will not. When we had people, qualified people to enter NTCs and because of numbers and because of infrastructure, they couldn't gain admission, we left them and decided to go for those who didn't qualify and put them somewhere and train them. What kind of nation are we? Those infrastructure they used to train NAPO, couldn't they have used that to train those people who couldn't gain admission to the diploma programs because of lack of infrastructure? Couldn't we have done that? We want to place value on our roles. Let us provide quality care to our people. Let us not delegate our roles to non-professionals. We should not. It is a taboo to do that. We go and then we are sitting at the table. You see professional nurses writing plenty. You don't even know what they are writing. They write the whole day. And the ancillary staff are the ones who are working. Me, twice when I went to deliver, people will come and take care of me. If you come and you are non-professional, tell you, call me the professional nurse. I used to do that. They're coming to take vital signs. I'll ask you, so I wasn't a good patient at all. I'll tell them that do not let non-professionals come and be taking my vitals because me we are old. Let us not delegate. It's not good. That is why people will commend them. So you'll be there and people will not be saying thank you to you and they are saying thank you to that person who did something that he or she didn't even understand. They don't even know the basis for which they are acting. And we want to give our jobs to them. We must learn to market ourselves and our services. And Mrs. Abraham talked about this. We go and we talk about diseases. We are sitting on the TV and we're talking about diseases. And we don't talk about nursing. We have to learn to market ourselves. We have to use the media as much as possible. We have to. We have to be friends with the media. We shouldn't go out. You see, whenever you see nurses coming up, then it is picketing. So they are making noise. Picketing. Can you imagine? Look at the training you have gone through. 4 good years. You come out, you are a graduate nurse. You go and sit at Ministry of Health, and then you go few, and then you picketing. And it's only nurses you see picketing. You know, sometimes it embarrasses me so much. You see, because we ourselves have placed ourselves down there. We do all of that because of the self-image. Because of the self-perception. We see ourselves as commoners sometimes. We are not commoners, are you? We are not commoners. In fact, we save lives. We save lives. Lives that were being lost, we help to bring back. Hey, that is the invaluable contribution to healthcare. Professional organizations have a lot to do as well. Professional organizations. The GRMA, they all have some work to do. They have to help us to change the public perception of nurses. They have to have a PR system that keeps watch over the media. So their job is to follow media all the time and read through the lenses what they are saying and what they are giving out to the public. Because you see, the media is very powerful. Anything they put out is consumed, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not. And you see, the negatives somehow are better marketed. Abi? So they'll always market that bad one. The good ones no. So they should have a PR system that watches over the media and tries to correct misconceptions. So as soon as these things come out, this system comes out to say, no, this is not true. A, B, C, D were exactly what happened. That is the job of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. You shouldn't just put people there because, oh, Obekasa. What will that person say? What will be the quality of the information that the person will put out there? It is very, very important. So the organizations must make friends with the media and gain access to the media, and then organize programs with, as I said, with intelligent, confident, and assertive nurses. Nursing associations must get themselves involved in policy making. You know, it is only when you're part of policy making that you're covered. Do you know that? Your interest will be taken care of. Every now and then we don't see nurses. Nurses are dropped. So nurses are not at the policy table. And this is what ICN has been propagating since the last ICN conference. They are saying, look, push your way through and get to the policy table. Go with your chair if they don't give you a chair. Nurses, and particularly the associations, must make sure that they find themselves at the policy table. We have to also improve our communication skills. Sometimes nurses, you see, that is the problem. We don't even know how to talk to people. We don't know how to talk to people. When I was growing up, at least the little that my mom told me was, learn to say sorry, learn to say thank you, learn to say please. Your name will not change from Philip to something else. So, oh please, can you wait a while? And that person, sometimes that person, in a long time he hasn't heard please. So you say please and he's like, oh, this beautifulness, this cuteness, this smartness is telling me please. Hey, I'm telling you, you have no idea how they feel when they come to the hospital. Look, sometimes they come to the hospital and they are so lost. They are so lost and they think there's nothing left in their lives. And you calm them with your humility, you calm them with your acceptance, accepting them as they are and talking to them. We need good communication skills to be able to do that. We have to also develop a system of reward and recognition for media. You know what the developed countries do? You know what they do? You'll see a nursing association organizing, organizing awards for the media. Best media. Oh, what? You know, they are making friends. They are advocating. Are you getting it? They are making friends with the media, and they want the media to see the good sides of them as well. So they make friends with them. At the end of the year, they give awards. The best friend, media friend. We should learn to do some of these things. It's important so that they will talk for us. So if somebody comes with news that is bad, they'll come to you. It will be the news here, are you getting me? But you see, because we don't do that, when somebody brings the news, they are in a hurry to post it because it sells their newspapers and all of that. We need to also empower nurses. I always say that we need to empower nurses. We need to orient ourselves and reorient ourselves. We stay in the system and we are there. Nobody is supportive of us. There's no system to support us. Sometimes we go through all that stress of caring for patients. We have our own challenges. Nobody is interested and all of that. And before you realize, you started as a beautiful nurse, a smart nurse, a very pleasant nurse, and over the years you see yourself changing because there's nobody to support you. The system must have support for nurses. The system must create support for nurses. The association can open an office. They can have a counseling unit so that when we are challenged, when we have problems, emotional and psychological problems, we can go to them and they help us through these things. We need to build the capacity of nurses. That is why NMC, for instance, is saying that every year you should go through some training. It is very important that we continue to build our capacity so that we maintain our standards. We want to also focus, I've mentioned already, that health promotion and maintenance is very, very important for us. We must also stress on the independent and interdependent functions of nursing. That is our role. That is what we do. The independent interventions where nobody comes to tell you that your patient is messed up himself, that your patient needs to be spoken to, that your patient is emotionally down and so needs you, and you have to be there. We want to hype those functions and not to go doing things that we see ourselves doing errands, all kinds of errands. And we go to, as students, we go and they are sending us, go and buy cocoa for me. Go and buy kenke and fish. Have they stopped? No. Go and buy wache. And you are happy. Why? You are happy. You see, if they see you busy working on patients, it will be difficult for them to call you and say, Jai, stop caring for patients. But when we go, we walk around as if there's nothing at stake. And so they also think that, oh, when you hear the end, you say, well, go and buy me wachi, okwa jimeko nto enye chenam the meat, and things like that. We don't want that. Again, this Mrs. Abraham said, it is important that we do regular public opinion surveys, patient satisfaction surveys, so that this can help us to improve on our practice. And again, when we have good results, we can put it out there in the public for everybody to know what we are doing as nurses. So as I bring my presentation to an end, I would want to wish you all a happy celebration and thank you for having me. God bless you.